What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV. You might remember when I brought Mike Marino on before. We talked about the ABs, the people that he was around. We got into the situation with Cadillac, whether or not he had a knife on him. There's been so much stuff out there on social media, out there on YouTube. Everybody's interested in this issue, but we got to talk to one of the dudes that was around back then. And we're going to talk to him about some of that stuff today. Some people have heard about Fly. You've seen these videos. People are sending them to me. So, Mike, we're going to bring you on. We're going to talk about some of that stuff. Tell the people who you are, Mike. I know you got your own channel. You're just starting out. We're going to get you some subscribers over there. Get that thing jumping. Tell the people about you.
Okay, my name is Mike Marino, and the name of my channel is Felons Talk. It's been out about 2 months now. I got about 500 subscribers so far, and I've been interviewing John Greshner from the Aryan Brotherhood. He's been down for 56 years. He's up in Colorado State Prison right now. They took him out of the Fed system and put him in Colorado. And the other day, they took me off his phone list. So that's why I haven't been putting out too many videos lately, but I will be putting another one up today. And I'm going forward without John. Hopefully I'll get him back on the phone list and we'll be able to hear from him again. But if not, we still have other material that we can do and other people that we can interview. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing John's cell partner. He's on an ankle monitor right now. He's in Denver, Colorado. He just got out. So we're going to hear from him tomorrow, and that's about it. Yeah.
Let's talk about this, Mike. I'll put your links up so people can, check you out. Tell the people how much time you did, Mike.
I did about 29 years, 4 months, and 10 days, to be exact. From May 5th, 1974 till September 15th of 2003.
Around people like Barry Mills, guys like that, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think I asked you before, what was Barry like?
Barry was kind of, he wanted you to know who he was. He let you know that the things he said and the way he behaved, he wanted you to know who he was. Of course, I'd heard of him from Mike Bartosh before he ever got to Atlanta. Mike Bartosh worked with me in the laundry, and one day, we were friends. We were chopping it up, and he was looking real sad and everything. And I said, "What's wrong, bro?" And he said, "Well, Barry's coming to Atlanta." I said, "Barry, your friend Barry Mills?" Because at this point, I still didn't know that much about the Aryan Brotherhood, right? And he said, yeah, Barry Mills, man. He's the head of the Aryan Brotherhood. And he's coming here. So I said, well, that's your friend, man. Why so glum, man? Why aren't you happy about that? He said, well, Barry wants me to make me a brother. He wants to bring me in and get me made, so to speak, to make me a member of the Brotherhood. And in order to do that, he's going to take me on a murder with it. I said, well, what do you mean? Is there somebody he's going to kill? And he said, no, Barry has promised to kill one inmate in every prison that he goes to. He's planting his flag, man. This is Barry Mills. So,
Let me ask you this. When you were around Barry, was he always serious? Were there times when he was joking, playing, where you're just like, man, it's a normal dude, but he has this other side when it's time for business, he handles it? Yeah,
he was joking and playing and all that, but he was also somebody that you knew was very serious. You took him serious anyway. He's a big guy, and I remember somebody saying something about a dude in regards to, that guy might have a knife, man. And, and Barry stepped right up and he said, well, if he does, I got a bigger knife. I mean, he wanted you to know who he was, man. Like, he was the guy, he wasn't afraid of nobody. He was the killer. He was the bitch.
Let's get to this kind of elephant in the room. Like, all these people have, there's a big thing. Like, after me and you did the interview, there was numerous comments where people were like, oh man, Cadillac was handcuffed. we'll talk about that. There's these videos out there with the dude Fly, where he's saying, man, I think he whooped Tommy Silverstein, he whooped Willie Bobo, he whipped some of the biggest, baddest Mexican mafia dudes in prison. Have you seen any of them videos?
I actually did see it the other day, man. He was saying that he was in McNeil Island. McNeil Island used to be a federal prison. It's not anymore. They sold it back to the state of Washington. It's a Washington state prison now. And he claimed that he came in there and he wanted some drugs. So he got a knife and he said, who's got the drugs? And somebody said, well, the Mexican mafia has the drugs. So he said, where are they at? And he pointed at this 12-man cell. I mean, I don't know how they had bigger cells. They had 10-man cells in them days, in some of the older prisons, right? He claims he went in there with a knife, made them all strip, right? Made them strip and give up all their drugs? Really? He did that all by himself? Okay. So anyway, the next day, he said, not Willie Bobo, but Gabby. Gabby's another guy. He's on the level of a Willie Bobo, right? He said Gabby wanted to know who it was that robbed his people. So he came up and said, well, I'm the guy that robbed your people. He said, everybody was there. Gabby, Barry Mills was there. He said, Ronnie Brashino, you know who he is, right? Ronnie Brashino, the Bruisers, they call him Bruiser. I mean, all these heavyweights were there, and nothing happened. He said nothing happened, right? Anyway, then he got transferred out of there and he went somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know his whole story, but I was just listening to that. And then he was talking about he was in holdover in Kansas City, in a holdover with Tommy Silverstein. And he said Tommy Silverstein came to him and said, I heard you're a boxer. And he said, I like to box too. And he said, well, him and Tommy got to sparring and he beat Tommy up. Oh, man, right. You know how big Tommy is, man? I mean, he's a big dude, right? Anyway, Tommy used to slap people, man. Like, Tommy was a bully, He was a fucking bully, man. I find that.
Let me ask you this. Let me stop you for a minute because you were around this guy, Fly, right? You were in same prisons here and there with him over the years.
Yeah, I was in the same prisons, but I vaguely remember this dude. I don't know him, no. You know what I mean? I heard his name and I might have heard him yelling down the tier at some time. So I didn't really hang out with Washington, D.C. people, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't really know that much about him personally,
Ask you this though. Let me ask you this. You remember him? What was he known as? Was he known as a tough guy, a guy that was full of shit? How was he known?
He was known as a guy who talked loud and shit like that, who boasted and all that shit, But I never seen him get busy with anybody, so I don't know, but I kind of just, my thing is, like, he just said he beat up Clay Fountain. Clay Fountain has killed, 4 people, right? He beat up Tommy Silverstein. And then he's like, oh, he just made up so many, he beat up according to him, he ran every prison he was ever in, And,
ask you this. If he walks up to Gabby, he walks up to Barry Mills, starts talking about, hey, man, yeah, I'm that dude. I robbed your people. If the robbery even happened, which I don't think it did. But what do you think would have happened? From your perspective, you were in prison with these dudes. You were around them. And so people know, and we'll talk a little bit about this. You were actually convicted of killing someone in prison. You killed someone in prison. I know it's a sore subject for you, but we'll talk about that briefly. But what do you think would have happened had he done that to Barry Mills and Gabby?
I think they'd have got busy with him right there. I think that's what would have happened. I don't think it would have went no further. And if they rocked him to sleep, if they played it like, well, okay, it's okay, we're not going to do anything, that would have been the next move to being, tomorrow we're, cutting his head off. You know what I mean? Like, just get him to like relax and let his guard down. They'll, call him rocking him to sleep. They would have rocked him or they would have hit him right there. One of the two, Actually, Barry, Puppet, and Mike ended up stabbing somebody there in McNeil Island. And Barry, Puppet McKinney, and Mike Bartot. And they all ended up getting transferred out of there for a stabbing. They didn't kill the guy, but they were involved in the stabbing. So do I think they would have let it go with the Gabs being there too? I seriously doubt it, man. It just doesn't sound correct to me. It sounds ridiculous, but hey, that's his story. He's sticking to it. I really don't, like I say, it's not my business. I'm just a spectator like everybody else on YouTube. I make my content and I keep it pushing,
Let me ask you this, right? You were also around Cadillac and all of that stuff, and he kind of had a reputation for taking ass, right? I mean,
yeah, Cadillac Smith, man. Okay, I drove up in Lewisburg, 76, right? They brought this little Jewish kid in, about a 23-year-old kid, right? He had a 3-year sentence. He was designated for the camp, which is outside the walls. You know what a camp is. For those of you who are watching, a camp don't have no fences or nothing. They might have a little unicorn out there. There's a pig farm where they work. They can walk away anytime they want. There's no security. The kid had a 3-year sentence, nonviolent crime, first offender. He was supposed to go to the camp. But the way they play it is they bring him in the walls, and it takes them, like the C&P office takes them about 2 to 3 weeks to get the papers in order. And then they call him down to R&D and they say, okay, you're being released to the camp. And they just send him over to the camp, which is right next door to the main prison. And that's how they used to do things, 2 to 3 weeks, and that's it. Well, this kid was on D2, single cell, and some black dude came in and tried to rape him. He runs downstairs and tells the white guys downstairs what had happened. And they decide they're going to go up and put the dude in check. It's a black dude from New York. He's a Muslim, right? So they get posseed up and they go upstairs. There's a guy that didn't get the memo. His name was Cato. He was going up with them too. There was like 5 or 6 of them. Cato hauls off and stabs this guy, right? He doesn't, like, that wasn't what's supposed to happen. I don't know if I told you this before, the story. He stabbed the guy. The guy didn't die. Everybody ran because they weren't expecting this. This wasn't this wasn't what was supposed to happen. They were going to go up and say, listen, if you want to rape somebody, rape a black guy. Don't rape one of ours. That's what they wanted to do. And and this kid, Cato, he blew that up. He just hauled off and stabbed this dude. So everybody ran. The black dude goes down to the cops, says, I've been stabbed. They take him to the infirmary, and he tells them, Cato stabbed me. And they roll up Cato, take him to the hole. Eventually, they charge Cato, and the black dude testifies against him. All right? But this is down the tier. This is months later. In the interim, they, the kid goes back to his cell and everything is okay. And Friday night, they have movies they have like a movie theater over the mess hall, regular movie theater, just like you got on the streets. The only difference is the seats ain't as comfortable, they don't have cushions on. And so everybody's coming back from the movies on a Friday night. He's getting ready to go up to the second floor on D block, and there's a big commotion. And I can hear it. What's going on? And here he comes, His body comes rolling down the steps. He's got a knife sticking out of his back. He's dead. The Jewish kid. His father's a big rabbi in Philadelphia. So they got to call his father. Kid's only been there a week. He's dead. How does he die? He gets murdered. How did that happen? We don't know. You know what I mean? After that, they
stop you for a minute. Let me stop you, because prison is a place where a lot of people talk. You say you don't know how he died, but I'm sure there was rumors throughout the jail. And
I'm not saying that. I'm saying, no, I know how he died. He got stabbed to death. You know,
who stabbed him? That's my question.
Some black dudes from D.C. I remember who they were, but I remember their nicknames, but I'm not going to say them because I could be wrong. But they were indicted. They wanted to indict Cadillac Smith. They wanted to. But for some reason, they couldn't.
They were indicted. Listen, they were indicted. So what were their names? It don't matter. I mean, this is 30, 40 years ago.
I think one of them was Wiggins. I think one of them's name was Wiggins Bay. And I don't remember the other kid's name. I'm not sure. I don't want to say the wrong name and get the wrong guy, you know. But they were. I believe they got convicted on that or something. Not 100% sure of that either. But I know they were indicted, and I know they wanted to indict Cadillac. You know, this was everybody in the prison knew about this. It's not something that was. Everybody talked about it. It was known. Okay. And so my point being that Cadillac was also known as a booty bandit. Okay. From the time that he was in Lorton Youth Center, people of his own people, his own homeboys, have talked about how he used to knock people out and fuck them. That's what he used to do, you know? And so it always made me question, like, how this guy has got such a great reputation among all these Washington, D.C. prisoners. I mean, he's a sex offender, you know, and they all know that. I mean, they grew up with the guy. You know what I'm saying? You know, he's the difference between Cadillac and Steamboat is that Cadillac never raped no white dudes. You know, he's not known for that. He was known for raping his own people, you know. And I remember one time he knocked out Philly Dog and took his weed from him. And dude asked him, Philly Dog said, did he rape you? And Philly said, no, he didn't rape me. He said, well, you're lucky because that's what he usually does. You know, that's what he's known for. And so you got away easy. Is what he told the dude, right?
Let me stop you for a minute, because, you know, a lot of people do get bent out of shape about this, you know, Cadillac getting killed and how did he get killed? He was cuffed. You know, everyone has their own narrative, right? And like you said, sometimes, hold on now, sometimes, and look, bro, I don't have a dog in the fight, right? Because some people do it. Oh man, you're pushing that agenda because no, bro, we're taught. Look, you get a lot of DC dudes that come out, they tell their story, how they believe things happen. You get white dudes that come out and say, hey, that's not really how it happened. It happened this way. And then DC dudes respond and say, no, it didn't happen that way. But you were around back then. And Cadillac did stab back. Who'd he stab? He stabbed back. Did he stab Clay?
I think he stabbed Clay, yeah. He had his own knife with him, you know. It's a known fact, man. Everybody, in Pete Early's book, Pete took his, actually he commented on my channel about if anybody wants to know where he got his information from. He got his information from the courts, from you know, the actual investigation, the entire thing. It's like he dug deep into finding out exactly what the facts were. And
I interviewed Pete Early on my channel. I mean, Pete was, you know, he was close with Silverstein. He was in the prison. He pulled up like you said, the investigative reports, the reports that, you know, people that were there, prisoners that were witnesses that maybe not have testified, but they did write some reports, and they said that Cadillac was not cuffed, correct?
He was not cuffed. He was walking to the shower. There was no reason to cuff him. They were locked in a cage, but nobody knew that the cage, that they had already sawed out of it. It was just like it was just being held there by like a very little thing, like that they had set it up so that all they had to do was touch it and it would fall apart. And they'd been working on it for a month. So they had no reason to cuff him going to the shower. And he was already, they were locked in the cage. Everybody was locked in his cell. They let him out to walk down to the shower by himself. And he was talking to one of his homeboys when he heard the boom, when they heard him kick out the screen, and turned around and they were heading his way in full force, And my understanding is that, they killed him and that he, somebody, it was either, maybe it was, I don't know if it was Cadillac who stabbed Clay or if it was Tommy who accidentally stabbed Clay. I don't remember, but Clay got stabbed. That's the only thing I remember. But yeah, I mean, he definitely was not cuffed. Anybody who says he was just doesn't understand the whole situation at all,
Maybe that's the narrative, because hey, look, that's their guy. That's the dude that, a lot of, and not in a disrespectful way, a lot of them dudes, look up to that dude. Like, he was that dude. He was knocking people out. He was the DC shot caller. They say they don't have a shot caller, but in your perspective, you've been on the compound with him. Was he the shot caller for DC back then?
Yeah, he was, And listen, like, I'm not going to say, there's a lot of good DC dudes, man. I know Naughty was good people, man. Punchy was good people. Who else? There's a bunch of them.
Bro, I've been around a lot of good DC dudes, man. I mean, hey, there's good and bad no matter where you're from. You know what I mean? Like Ian Williams.
And there's white booty bandits too, man. Puppet was a fucking booty bandit, I'm not saying, that the white guys weren't scumbags. They were some scumbags. Trust me, they were all scumbags. I mean, I'm just saying, in that world where we came from, you don't want to let somebody walk around bragging about raping a white dude. That's how what's his name got murdered? Steamboat. That's how he got murdered. Run his fucking mouth.
Let me stop you. We're going to talk about Steamboat in a minute. I don't want to get off track, though. I want to kind of keep you in this lane. They end up killing Cadillac, right? In prison murders. I may have asked you this before. You actually killed someone in prison. When you went on that mission, in your mind, were you like, yo, I'm killing this dude? Or were you like, hey, look, we accidentally killed him?
I was killing him, yeah.
Going to kill him.
Huh?
We're going on a mission to kill this cat.
Yeah. You go on a mission and kill somebody. You don't go to just stab them up. I mean, somebody else might think like that, but I didn't. And I don't know too many people that did.
So you're going on a robbery. Aren't you going to rob this cat? What do you end up stabbing him for?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
What, it was a robbery?
No, it wasn't a robbery. It was in retaliation for a fist fight that he had with my co-defendant, and because of some things that he had said about my co-defendant selling him bad drugs, and also because we believed that he was going around robbing everybody's lockers. All the white guys got their lockers hit one afternoon, and we thought that he was one of those guys that was involved in that.
So these small things, right? These small things in this prison environment cost this dude his life, right?
Yeah.
Mike ever think, damn, we're about to go kill this dude, I'm never going to get out? Does that ever enter Mike's mind?
Probably not, because I already had so much time. I didn't think I was getting out anyway, But yeah, you know what? That was a bad call on my part. I fucked up.
You regret that decision, right, Mike?
100%. 100%.
Bother you now all these years later? You sleep at night? Does it ever pop in your mind?
Yeah, sure does.
Does it haunt you?
Yep. It does. It does. Something
I can see it bothers you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, dude. I always promised myself I wouldn't kill anybody unless, it was absolutely necessary. I can't justify that as being an absolutely necessary thing. I can't do that.
You talked about, what was it, Steamboat? I'm really not familiar with this guy, but you talked about him a little bit, right?
Right. So Steamboat raped 2 dudes in Leavenworth. He started with, I don't even remember their names. He raped a dude in general population. That got him locked up and put in a hole. They put him in a hole with another white guy. He raped that guy. And that's why they sent him to the Marion Control Unit. While he was in the control unit, he used to have to sign a rec sheet to come out with a different person so that you could rec together. He signs this rec sheet with a black dude. They come out together. He tries to sex pressure the guy. The guy gets upset. He gets a piece of steel and he stabs him. Steamboat starts screaming. Cops come. They talk the guy into putting the knife down. Apparently, he didn't have a very good weapon. I don't know what he used, but they took Steamboat to the hospital, patched him up, brought him right back. He signs in on rec with another guy, another black guy. Okay? Same thing happens. They come out for recreation. He tries to sex pressure the guy. The guy gets some kind of a piece of steel, not a very good piece, and he does the same thing that the first guy did. Stabs him. Steamboat. Steamboat screams. And the cops come again, talk the guy into putting a knife down, right? Gets away with it again. The 2 white boys come out. They're like, nah, he ain't going to get away with this one. You know what I mean? They had their shit strapped to their wrists. They had lanyards. You know what a lanyard is. So it's tied around their wrists so they can't drop the knife. There's 2 of them. There's 1 of him. He comes out. He's pulling his fucking sweatpants on. It's the door. Hold on, I'm putting my pants on. He's pulling his fucking pants on. And they start working on him. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's ridiculously, it was probably the best murder I've ever seen in my life. It was he so deserved this fucking killing, man. And they chased him around the fucking weight machine. He ran this way. Clay would hit him. He ran the other way. And baby Huey would stab him. And it just got to the point where all he could see was the food hatch on the door where you put the trays through. And he ran up to that and he stuck his head there. Apparently he thought he could squeeze his head and his whole body through, which is obviously not a possibility because it was only this big. But when you're, in the state of mind that he was in, and when he was being murdered, he thought that was the only way he could see out of that situation. And that's where they left him. They left him at that door. And not only did they leave him at the door, they went to work on him like while he was dead. Like the guy from where is it? I think many times. They like 60 times they stabbed this dude. Like while he was dead, they were still stabbing him.
Talking about Troy Kell.
That's who I'm thinking of. Yeah, just like Troy Kell.
So after this dude's dead, this
motherfucker did not come back again.
You said Clay. Was that Clay? What Clay was that?
Yeah, Clay Fountain. Absolutely, Clay Fountain. That was Clay's first murder, and he loved that. He loved it.
Did they end up charging Clay with that?
Yeah, they gave him 10 years.
10 years for killing someone in federal prison.
Well, I mean, they brought up his history. They brought up, Steamboat's history for the sexual assaults and everything, you know. And this was a trial. They couldn't. They didn't convict. They convicted him of like manslaughter or something. They couldn't convict him of first-degree murder.
And where was Steamboat? Was from D.C.?
Yes, definitely. He was from D.C. And here's the thing. A whole lot of his fucking homeboys were glad to see him die. One of the black dudes, like, man, he tried to rape a couple of black dudes right there in the unit in months just previous to this. You think they weren't happy to see him get murdered? Fuck yeah, they wanted to see him die. You know?
What kind of a dude was he?
He's a piece of shit. He ran his mouth all the time.
How big was he? Was he a big dude?
5'8", 194. It was on his was it 194 or 198? It was on his autopsy report. He was like 5'8", 194, something like that.
You trying to fight back at first?
He's a chunky dude, you know. He's a chunky dude, but you know, that's pretty big for a 5'8".
Trying to fight back a little bit?
No, he didn't fight. He just ran. Same thing he did the other two times. Screamed and ran. Yeah,
Baby Huey, how much time did he have?
Shit, I don't know. I don't remember. I know he got 10 years for that, you know. Baby Huey got out, about 10 years ago. He did 36 and a half years, and he died of brain cancer about 4 years ago. He met a girl up in Minnesota. He married her while he was in prison. She stuck with him for about 13 years, and then he got out and lived with her until he passed away.
So that night, old Steamboat dies. How were you feeling?
Oh man, excited, happy. You know, the unit manager came around as his job every afternoon at lunchtime was to come around to make the rounds, talk to everybody, see if anybody had any issues. He's a captain. He's a captain. I forgot his name now. God, it's been 50 years, right? When he got to my cell, I looked at him and he was affected by this fucking murder. He watched it. He seen it. It was horrible. You know, I mean, to him, it was horrible. I mean, you could see how affected he was. He was ashen gray. He could barely talk, you know. His attention was like not focused. You know what I mean? He was unfocused. It was like, you could just tell, man, that, you know, he had issues with what he had just witnessed.
That stuff affects people, man. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, when you look at someone that's a piece of shit and they get butchered, it's like, so what? But to normal people in regular society, they would be like, oh, hell no, no matter who it was, to see something like that, it's gruesome. But prison calluses people. It turns, you know, your heart into a black heart at times. I mean, obviously, I can see that you're affected by the murder that you committed, and you talk about, hey, you know, it does bother me. But then when you talk about Steamboat, it doesn't bother you at all.
No, yeah.
How old are you now, Mike?
70.
70 years old, man. Been through a lot, seen a lot. You know, I asked you before about, you know, your biggest regrets. And, you know, I think that shit resonated with other people. It hit home, you know. You spent your whole life in prison almost, right?
Yeah, 30 years.
I actually met with you in person, so I got to meet you in person. You're a pretty big dude. And you are the person that took me into Philly, right?
Yeah. What did you think of that? That's crazy, ain't it?
I mean, I've never in my life would have ever imagined that there would be syringes, and not just one or two, just numerous syringes, people actively using. You know, it was just that
on the street with people driving by? Was there people shooting dope while traffic is going by right on the fucking street?
there with the cops standing there, it was shocking to say the least, to be down there to see what was going on in the United States, something like that, bro.
It's the same way in this. I think it's the same way in certain places like L.A. There's a big homeless population, and down in the what do you call the
Skid Row. I went down there after I went to Kensington with you. I ended up going to Skid Row a couple months later just to kind of see. Huh?
You been to Skid Row in L.A.?
I went there after I went to Kensington because I had to compare the two.
Did you see the same thing there?
I did, and I don't think it was. Man, it's hard to explain. I think Skid Row was a little more dangerous. That people were less accepting, and Skid Row was kind of like people were watching you. I mean, in Kensington with you, people were kind of watching me. In Skid Row, they were actually making comments. And I said, man, don't bring your white ass back here tonight. We had someone else tell us that they were going to blow our heads off. A chick was like, what you doing down here? We'll blow your head off. It was a chick. I thought it was a dude. But it was definitely, I think there was
Kensington?
Oh, that was in Skid Row. In Kensington, it was more, drugs all over the place, people just watching you. In Skid Row, they were actually making comments.
Okay.
But anyway, man, you're out now. You're free. The things that you've seen, the things that you've been through, it affects people. Like how you said that, like that murder didn't really affect you, seeing Steamboat get killed. I've seen murders in prison that later on in life, I want to say that they didn't affect me after I seen a few people, stabbed, another dude killed. Then you see it again. I felt like, man, it started not to affect me, but maybe it really does. But it didn't affect me the way that going through Kensington, Skid Row affected me, even though there weren't dead people, just to see the syringes and all over the place and watching kids walk to school, that affected me in a different way than watching somebody get murdered in prison.
I don't understand how the people that live there put up with that. I guess they just don't have the money to move out of that neighborhood or something. Because I wouldn't want my kid walking to school past drug dealers. I'd have some problems with that, But they don't seem to want to just come out in force and run these fuckers off the street corner. At least stop selling drugs when the kids are going back and forth to school,
Look, man, we live in a day and time where there's no respect. It's not the way that it used to be. Certain areas, it's just a lawless land. I don't care if you're in New York City and the people are beating the shit out of the immigrant dudes are beating the shit out of the cops, people going in the mall, stealing everything, people blatantly killing people and putting it on Instagram, killing people with cameras out on the street lights. Like no one cares, bro. Like you're on camera and you're killing people. People don't even care anymore. It's a different world, my friend.
I know.
Hey, Mike, man, I appreciate you coming on. We talked a little bit about Fly. We talked about Steamboat. We talked about Cadillac. I mean, you happened to be around back then. And look, some people don't want to hear that part, that he wasn't handcuffed. Whether he was or not, I wasn't there. But, I mean, if you're able to stab people back, then you probably weren't handcuffed because it'd be pretty hard to stab someone from behind your back, right?
Yeah, he was not cuffed. There was 100%. I mean, it's been proven over and over, and it's not even a question in my mind. I know he wasn't, so I don't even know about these people that make these comments. I don't really pay that much attention to, like so far in my comments, I've never seen anybody say that about Cadillac.
Well, listen, Mike, man, I definitely appreciate you coming on, man. We're going to make sure we put up your link, Felons Talk. Go check Mike out. He's one of them dudes that people tell stories about. He's one of them dudes that they actually talk about. But anyway, man, Blood on the Razor Wire TV. With respect, until tomorrow, we're out.